Yeah.
Madam Chair, you are live.
Okay, hold on just a second. Okay, at 5:07, I am calling to order the Finance Committee for June 20th, 2023. Sorry, we're just running a tad smidge late due to some technical issues. But if we could get a roll call, that'd be great.
Certainly, Madam Chair. Councillor Cassidy.
Here.
Councillor Rivera.
Here.
Councillor Lindell. Councillor Villarreal.
Present.
Councillor Merrill-Worth.
I am here.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Terrific. Next, we're going to go to approval of the agenda, and I do believe we have some changes to this agenda, correct? We're pulling some things off.
Madam Chair, we have one change to the agenda from staff. Staff requests that item L relating to the approval of the amendment number 5 to the collective bargaining agreement between the City of Santa Fe and Local 3999 City of Santa Fe employees of the American Federation of States, County, and Municipal Employees be removed from tonight's agenda. This item was not ratified by AFSCME membership, and our HR Director, Bernd Salazar, has provided more information by email.
Right, and so it's just not ready yet for us. Hold
Question
on
on-
just a second. Do we have a motion? Are there other changes besides that?
No other changes, Madam Chair.
Okay, can we get a motion first?
Move to approve as amended.
A motion and a second to approve the agenda, and we have a question.
Just a question about, since that was pulled, will that then be heard at Quality of Life? Okay. So we'll have a whole new schedule. Likely.
Madam Chair and Councillor Villarreal, we're working on that, but it wasn't ready to be presented today, and it likely won't be ready for Quality of Life on Wednesday.
Thank you.
All right, other questions on the agenda? If not, can we get I can do this by voice vote, right? All those in favor, aye? Anybody opposed? All right, that motion passes. On to approval of the consent agenda, I believe there are a number of things the committee would like to hear. Do you all want to? Do you want?
Madam Chair, I have the list.
Okay,
if that's
terrific.
helpful. We have item I, item P, item R, item S, and item T.
Okay, what was the second one? I'm sorry.
I, P as in
P.
Paul,
There we go. I missed it.
R, S, and T.
Okay, and I'll just defer to the committee. Did we get everything everybody's interested in? I, P, R, S, and T.
Madam Chair.
Councilwoman, yeah.
I'm going to retract S as in Sam.
Okay.
Because I think it would be easier. The questions I have would be easier to talk to staff directly.
Okay, did anybody else want S? And if not, then we'll leave that. So we're only pulling I, P, R, and T. Everybody okay? All right, can we get a motion?
Move to approve as amended.
Motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as amended. All those in favor, aye. Anybody opposed? That motion passes. All right, we are on to presentations, and I believe we're starting with the finance staff recognition, and we'll go to Director Oster, our finance director.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It is my pleasure to recognize Carolyn Roybal tonight. This particular certificate is being presented to Carolyn for assistance with the city's FY24 budget. I think you are all aware that Carolyn helped me get the minutes wrapped up for all of our 9 budget hearings that we had back in the month of April, and that was a big lift. I really appreciate her assistance. And in addition to that, I wanted to let you all know that Carolyn is going to be retiring. We're very excited for her and very sad. We're going to miss her greatly. And this is actually going to be her last meeting as our committee liaison. Her retirement is effective in July, and so she'll be with us in the office through the beginning of July. So I wanted to take a moment as we're presenting this certificate to recognize Carolyn's service to the city of Santa Fe. Carolyn has been with the city for almost 9 years, and she's worked in finance that whole time. She has been the committee liaison for the finance committee for about 7.5 years. So we're really going to miss her knowledge of the committee rules and, you know, her skill at putting together our agendas. It's going to leave a big hole. We're going to miss you very much, Carolyn. And she has done just about everything in finance over the last 9 years. She's worked with 6 different finance directors, and I am very honored to be in this position at this time when we're recognizing her as she moves on to the next chapter in her life. And throughout all of that change and transition with 6 different finance directors, Carolyn has been a constant for this committee and for the finance department as a whole. So thank you so much, Carolyn. We're incredibly grateful to you, and we look forward to celebrating you over the next couple of weeks. We are planning a retirement party, so we'll keep you posted on the details. And with that, it's my pleasure to welcome Carolyn up to the mic here to accept her certificate, and then to wish the committee well.
Carolyn, if you'll just stay up here for a second, committee members may want to say farewell and best of luck. And I know I certainly do, and I will miss your presence at the front office when I come in to meet with Director Oster. You're always cheerful, and really have appreciated your help with all the committee organizing. So, but I wish you well, and I'm sure this is very well deserved. And I hope you have things planned, and you know, congratulations. Sad for us, but awesome for you. So thank you for your years of service.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. It's been my pleasure to serve committee and to serve our finance department, the city of Santa Fe, and our constituents. So it's going to be a bittersweet, but it's time for me to start another chapter and spend some quality time with my family. I'm going to miss everybody.
That's wonderful. Anybody else? Yes, Councilor Lindell.
Well, no. We're thrilled for you, of course. And that cheerfulness that you bring to all of us, it rubs off, makes a difference. And I know your family's going to be thrilled. I hope the next chapter is terrific. You've earned it. You deserve it. You're an amazingly nice person. You're also very, very, very competent. I mean, the emails from you were always, you know, so timely, and they had just the information requested. I'm really grateful to have been able to work with you, and I completely and thoroughly enjoyed it. So very, very best of luck to you. I know it's going to be terrific. Thank you, Carolyn.
Thank you, Councilor Lindell.
Councilwoman Villarreal.
Well, that was unexpected today. I really wasn't expecting that, but I can understand why you're probably ready to rest and get the time you deserve with your family. And I understand it's been a hard year, so I'm just happy for you and sad for us. And I think we know that there's big shoes to fill for your position and all the knowledge, not just institutional knowledge, but the fact that you've touched different areas. It really helps to kind of understand the holistic role of finance. So I'm going to miss that, and I'm going to miss your positivity and your optimism. I think we need that in these times. And so I just wanted to thank you from deeply from, you know, my heart and others about, you know, the fact that it's just hard to lose staff members like you. So you'll be missed, but I'm sure we'll be seeing you hopefully in town dancing at the plaza or something fun like that.
Tirando chancla.
Hey, eso. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you very much.
Counselor Rivera.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Been a pleasure working with you. Since you've been here, and we're really gonna miss you. And just like all my colleagues said, you're a great employee, and we hate to lose great employees. And again, your positivity even now, this close to retirement, we're really gonna miss you. So hope you take some time to enjoy your family and do some fun things, and don't jump into anything too quick after. So
No, I got to have a little time for rest and just put things in perspective.
well, good luck to you. And if you ever need anything, don't hesitate to call.
Thank you very much, Counselor Rivera.
Counselor Cassett.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you so much, Carolyn, for everything. I'm not sure everybody understands how much work goes into being a council committee liaison. And so you have always done it with incredible efficiency and as everybody has always said, positivity. And I know I really appreciated all your communications, especially as we were getting started and I just got on the council and then we went to Zoom very quickly. And you were just really wonderful in making sure that everything was organized and that we were getting through all the rapid changes that we had. So I'm very sorry that you will be leaving, except for very happy for you. Wish you the best of luck in retirement. And thank you so much for your service to the city.
My pleasure. And thank all of you guys. And you'll see me from time to time. And don't forget, it's me. Just wave.
That's great. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
All right, we are going to our audit update for FY '21 and back to you, Director Oster.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you again, Carolyn, for your service to the Finance Department and the city as a whole. We're really going to miss you, and we look forward to those visits. So don't be a stranger. On the audit front, we are continuing to wrap up FY '21. That's our top priority for finance, city staff, Carr Riggs Ingram, which is our external audit firm, and our Clifton Larson Allen consultants. And we're just chasing down those last remaining items. We're where I would expect to be at this point, about a week and a half, 2 weeks out from our submittal date of June 30th. I believe we are on track to finish the audit for FY '21 and get that submitted to the state auditor's office by June 30th. I did present last week to the SWAMA board on audit status. So I wanted to just let you all know about that. And we had a quarterly audit status update for FY '21 and FY '22 that was for the city, BDD, and SWAMA that was submitted last week on Thursday on time to the state auditor's office. That update was due on June 15th. And I did send it out by email, so all of the counselors should have a copy. In addition to wrapping up FY '21, city staff is working closely with CLA to wrap up FY '22 in Munis and close out loose ends in Munis because as I've mentioned a couple of times, the Munis will need to be shut down for FY '22 in order to open FY '24. We've completed our month-end close for May of 2023. So that is 11 months that we've completed a month-end close process in Munis for FY '23. That's putting us in a very good position going into the year-end close. We are currently working on testing the year-end close process in Munis. And that's going well so far. Just to put things in perspective, for FY '22, where we didn't have a month-end close process in place, there were approximately 30,000 items that had to be reviewed and addressed as part of the close process. And at this point, we're down to fewer than 2,000 items that we're working through, and that number keeps going down. So we're in a very different place and we understand the close process. We are using a new version of Munis. So we're planning to do 4 different tests of the year-end close process in the test environment prior to doing that in the live production environment. We just want to make sure that we don't, have any unanticipated hiccups related to the change in version, since we did move from 2011 to 2019. So there was a pretty big jump in versions. And then with that, Madam Chair, I'm happy to stand for any questions about the audits.
Great, thank you. Questions from the committee? Really appreciate your work on this, and looking forward to June 30th, I gotta tell you. As I'm sure you and your staff are as well. Okay, we are going to move into the consent agenda, and I believe the first item that was pulled was item I, which is a request for approval of a professional services agreement with the Santa Fe Public Schools for expanded summer program opportunities for the youth of Santa Fe in the amount not to exceed $150,000, including NMGRT. And we have Julie Sanchez, the Youth and Family Services Division Director, with us tonight. And I believe, Counselor Lindell, this was something you're interested in.
Good afternoon. I just have some questions on this because it seems to me, and that's what I'm trying to find out, is that this is really a very, very last minute request. And concerns me a little bit, last minute requests like this. I mean, do we entertain last minute requests from other entities or nonprofits that we fund? I mean, if they know they're coming up short with money, can they come to the city and say, we're short on funding? Because this seems so last minute to me, and it makes me uncomfortable.
Madam Chair, Counselor Lindell. A couple of things happened. The biggest one actually in April. So this contract would have actually gone straight to the city manager when it was approved through my office in the public schools back in April. But I was 2 weeks short of the WHO threshold for under 200,000. And so I had to get it back through the process, re-reviewed, and then brought forward to committees for approval. I did have a meeting with the superintendent back in April, and we did discuss some of the shortfalls that they were seeing in their summer program. Summer, as you know, for the public schools starts in May and goes through August. And because we had a little bit of GRT left over in our Children and Youth Fund, we decided to partner, because we partner in a lot of programs, and see if we could fulfill some of those shortfalls to open up more slots for Santa Fe students.
Well, in the contract, at this point in time, we must know, or I would think we would know, who are these contracts with?
So I do know, Madam Chair, Counselor Lindell, and I can send that list. I got the list actually in May.
And
And
do we have the amount that's going to each one?
Yes, I do.
We should probably have that in our packet. I got a letter today from a nonprofit that does summer programs for kids. They're short on money. Should they come to the city?
So Madam Chair, Counselor Lindell, our Small Grant Innovation Fund is open now. I sent the application, I believe, to everybody to share with your network, but that would be a great place for an individual nonprofit to apply for funding.
But that's not what this group did.
No, this is through the public schools.
I mean, I'm sure it's needed. The process of this bothers me. It doesn't seem like everybody's getting a fair shake in this. Because there's lots of programs that provide these kinds of services. And this isn't a small ask, 150,000. It's a one-time, I'm sure. But yeah, I would definitely like to see who the contracts are to, and how many contracts are there?
Madam Chair, Counselor Lindell, I believe there's maybe 8 or 9. Majority of those are public schools. So there wouldn't be a nonprofit attached to it. It would actually be an individual school running programs by teachers.
Okay, that's all I have, Chair.
Other questions from the committee? Counselor Cassett?
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Director Sanchez, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is, if I recall, this is a little bit different than our other nonprofits. This is a joint program between the city and the schools. Am I correct there?
So Madam Chair, Counselor Lindell, it's mainly ran through the public schools. And we do have an agreement with the schools to help support summer and after school programs.
Okay, so the setup is a little bit different than other people that might be coming through for CYFD funding or the small innovation grants.
Yeah, Madam Chair, Counselor Lindell, that's correct.
Pass it. No problem.
That's,
You're looking at me.
Cassett over here, Lindell over
Yeah.
here.
that's the baby induced pregnancy.
I know. It happened. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that clarification.
Other questions from the committee? Councilwoman Villarreal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think it would help just to have that breakdown of the programs. And so if we could get that before quality of life, ooh, that's tomorrow. Is that possible to send us, all of us, an email so we could just see the breakdown?
Madam Chair, Counselor Villarreal.
Thank you.
Yes, I will include that in the packet.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve this item. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody doing anything else? All right, I think that motion passes unanimously. All right, we are on to item P as in Paul. Request for approval of a professional services agreement with, how do you say this, Proyecto LLC in the total amount of $182,847 for the continuation of the Midtown Management Services for Phase 3-5. And we have Rich Brown, our Community Development Director, here to answer questions. And I believe Councilor Lindell, you were interested in this item.
Hi, Mr. Brown. On page 7 of the packet, item 8 and 9, create and manage weekly or bi-weekly update reports and committee meetings on progress with selected parcel developer and leaseholders. Number 9, provide and distribute notes and action items that guide internal stakeholder steering committee and development committee meetings. So are those updates and reports that the council should be privy to?
Madam Chair, Councilor Lindell, that's a good question. We do have weekly, I think we have 3 weekly meetings on Midtown, and they have not been released out to the council. One of the reasons I think why there's been no sort of public report is because we've been through this RFP phase. So it's been a confidential process, but we're now about to move forward with infrastructure. So we will share a progress report on that, but we do have internal infrastructure meetings 3 times a week with teams of land use, public works, and economic development, et cetera.
So on these particular items, these don't look like they're part of the RFP. They look like there was selected parcel developer and leaseholders. Would there be any reason that the council couldn't see those?
Madam Chair, Council Lindell, those are future forward, I'll call it. That's once we start finishing our contracts with the developers that have been chosen. So once we have our parcel developers, once we finalize our legacy building developers, then we will start to have progress reports on the work that's being done. So this is a scope of work moving forward.
I'm sorry, I'm still not clear.
Okay.
Is it a yes or a no?
It's a no right now.
Once the are selected, is it still a no?
It's a yes.
Okay, so that's what it says here. Selected parcel developer and leaseholders. And that would be a weekly or bi-weekly update report. So we should expect that once they're selected, correct?
That's correct. So look for the fall start receiving those reports coming in. They'll come through EDAC and through quality of life, but they can come through the full governing body.
Yeah, I think that, I think probably those should come also. Well, I say also, what, I think I'm the only member that isn't on one of those two committees,
yeah,
so.
yeah.
I would like to see them,
Okay.
and if, to make it more formal, they could just be forwarded perhaps to the finance committee, because I think every bit of this has to do with finances.
That's correct, because we're going into a development financing phase in a short while in the fall. So,
So on both of those items, if we could make a note that I would like for us to follow through on that
Okay.
and make sure that we are kept up to date on it.
Madam Chair, Councilor Deoshia will do that.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Counselor. Other questions? Councilwoman Villarreal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Director Brown, for being with us. I just wanted to see a breakdown of the last few years and what that contract was. Usually in the procurement sheet, we see they usually give you a breakdown of like the first year it started, this contract, and how much it was. And then if it went up or if it was the same. And then we're in phase 3 right now. Is that when you say phase 3, is that year 3?
It's the third phase. It's more development versus year. So I can get you the copy of the contract. Councilor Villarreal, the contract had expired. It actually had a term that expired in 2024, but it was wearing 7 hats, and I just thought that it just was extended, but it turned out I had to renew the amendment, and so I missed the deadline. But I do have a copy of the previous contract, which has all those.
Yeah,
details.
I think just the reminding us what we started with when we first had this contract.
Okay.
Because it usually outlines that, and I don't see that here. All it says is the new amount, and I can't remember what we started with, where we're at now, and if it went up. I think that would help me just get a better picture.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that was really what I was needing for this contract. I'm looking through it just to see if I marked anything else. Yeah, I think it would help. And if there's any other questions I have, I probably will ask them at quality of life. But right now I was just looking for the numbers of the contract the past few years, and when the time period was, like if it wasn't it 2018 we started?
Yeah. It was,
Okay.
Yeah, it was, and then it was 2018, and then it was extended, and the
Right.
extension was to 2024, but I missed the.
Usually procurement lists that. I don't know if that's you filled that out. I think it's actually staff. So
Yeah, the staff filled it out, but I have the documents, and I
Great.
will make sure.
that'd be great to have that info.
Okay.
Thank you.
Counselor Cassett.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Director Brown, I just have a couple of questions. So this said that it's for phases 3, 4, and 5. How many total phases are there?
Well, Madam Chair, Councilor Cassett, there's probably 10 phases. There's
Okay.
probably 15 years of work.
Okay,
So these are phases that we like to talk about the infrastructure or the horizontal development. So this is getting the stormwater and the engineering and the streets and the parcelizing and the RFPs for housing and the development piece and the MRA. These are those phases before you get to a developer getting a contract that starts shoveling on the ground, and then you get into timelines, construction and distribution and workforce development. Those things. Those go to 6 through 10.
10-ish.
Yeah,
Okay.
those period of times.
And this does say that it's a final consideration. So I'm assuming that you expect this to be the last extension of a contract with Mr. Hernandez?
Madam Chair, Council Council, that's correct. This is the final phases for him.
And then once he is done with this contract, is the leadership of this work, is it being transitioned to the MRA? Is that the plan in the end?
Madam Chair, Council Council, yes, it'll move over to the MRA director because we'll have financing done, contracts are finished, and then it's really managing the development plan.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Do we have a motion? Move to approve.
Okay.
We have a motion and a second to approve this item. Any other questions, discussion? If not, all those in favor, aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? That motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, now we go to R. Request for approval to purchase new furniture for the airport terminal via GSA price agreement. GSA number GS-27F-0008W in the amount of $84,582.60. We have James Harris, the airport manager, with us tonight. Good evening, Mr. Harris. And Councilor Lindell, I believe you have questions.
Thank you. Oh, sorry.
You both have questions. Oh, I didn't get the revised memo. All right.
Good evening, Mr. Harris. I only have one thing that I want to talk about. And I know I've talked to you about it before, but I want to be on record with it, that we have some historic furniture in that airport. And I would like to be sure that we have an inventory of it and that we keep very, very close track of that furniture, because over the past number of years, it looks like maybe some of it found a new home that's not in the airport, but I think it's really, really important that we have an inventory of that and that we keep track of it.
Thank you, Councilor Lindell, and the councilors. So the furniture that we're planning on purchasing will not replace the current furniture that you mentioned. These are just so they didn't put any furniture into the bid for construction. So this order is for 151 of your typical airport seats. They're the same seats that I put in Clovis. They got good reviews. They're comfortable. They give you a little lean, and they're soft. So they're a soft plastic. So they're easy to clean. They're made from recycled materials. They're eco-friendly.
That's, that's great. I just want us to be sure that we have a inventory of the existing historic furniture that is currently in the airport.
Yes, I can get on that tomorrow.
Thank you.
Other questions from the committee? Councilwoman Villarreal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ed, I had similar questions. I think I was just trying to understand where the modern seating or new furniture was going to go, or if it was going to replace the wooden historic seating, and how you're blending that, like where everything is being moved. Because I thought there was some historic furniture in the what's considered the waiting room once you go through security, but maybe I'm wrong.
Thank you, Counselor. No, there's none of the old historic furniture in the secure waiting area. Right now, it's about 4 or 5 benches in the front along the windows. So the new furniture for the new north expansion, the secured space, the new furniture is going to go mainly in that area. We have some outside areas that it'll go.
Got it. I guess I was trying to see or understand if there was, if you all looked at maybe kind of design that actually went with the historic furniture, but it sounds like it's very modern, correct?
Yes, it's modern. So since I found out last minute that there was no furniture in the terminal expansion, we had to go with a company that I'm familiar with that can get the product to us before the actual north expansion is done. So the company is called the Airport Seating Company. They have seats in Dallas and Denver and all the major airports. So in phases 2 and 3 that I'm looking for funding now for, that's when we're going to do the historical furniture that will blend in with Santa Fe.
So you're saying the modern does blend into like a Southwestern style, or? not?
Yes, so city management and the mayor, they helped me pick out the colors, so
Okay,
very Santa Fe colors.
that's good to know. That was kind of my concern, that the new furniture wouldn't have any kind of southwestern anything connected to place. So you're saying there is a style that can match, quote, match what we have in the front room, which is where the historic furniture will stay, correct?
Yes, I think so.
You think so?
I
So
think
we
it-
may
I think
not
it
keep
blends
the,
well.
so we may not keep the historic furniture in the.
No,
front room?
we're keeping that.
Got it. Okay.
Counselor Lindell is very
Yep.
persuasive.
Yeah, I agree with keeping inventory of it. It's a lot of people care about it. It's also very unique. And so, yeah, I just wanted to see how you were going to kind of make it all work. But I'm glad we have something that will match our Southwest style in the new room. And I'm seeing maybe, yeah, you're excited about it.
Very excited.
Okay.
It's very beautiful. It's pretty cool.
Right.
I can't wait to show you all. They just started staining what are those things?
The Vegas,
Yes, they just started staining those.
excellent.
So
Look forward to that. When does that do, that space completed?
So we're looking at mid-August, early September for completion on the terminal portion.
Thank you.
The parking lot will be later this year.
Okay, that's another story. All right, thank you so much.
So I'm a little confused. The new furniture is going in the new area, correct?
Yes, Counselor.
And the only thing that makes it fit in is that it's somehow Southwest colors.
Basically, yes.
Okay.
So the furniture, it's like I said, it's your typical airport furniture, but it's a little more comfortable. We didn't have time to outsource and get something that blends in perfectly. So we just had to go with what colors blend in. So that's when I got with the mayor and city management, and they picked out the colors that they think would go best with the Santa Fe theme.
And the historic, quote unquote, historic furniture is in the front before you go through security.
Right.
And that is going to stay.
We're looking for a location that we can put it where people can enjoy it. We have outside covered areas in the secure area that we can put it.
Yeah, no. Okay, I think this needs some work. You can't put historic furniture outside. So that's a little concerning.
Okay, well, there's no set plan. We're
Is there,
brainstorming.
but is there's space in the front part of the airport
Yes,
for seating?
so those, where they are now is where they will stay. So we're not replacing those yet. Well, not replacing, but we're not moving those yet. They will stay where they are. We're gonna have a company come in and refurbish them in some type of way. And then we will set them in different areas of the terminal so everybody can enjoy them. So there's no plans to do anything with them right now.
Well, on a bright note, I saw that your furniture has charging stations on the chairs, so people will like that for sure. Okay, other questions from the committee? Okay, I guess I would just say I would caution you and I would encourage you to be very careful with the historic furniture. I agree with Councilor Lindell and Councilwoman Villarreal. Is there a motion on this item?
Move to approve.
Second?
Motion and a second. All those in favor, aye.
I
Anybody opposed? All right. Good luck. All right. The last item that we have tonight, item T. A bill amending SFCC 1987, Section 2-4.6 to increase the city manager's non-pandemic contract approval authority to $200,000, amending Section 11-13 to strike language regarding contract authority, and amending Section 20-1.4. Okay, we have two prepositions in a row, by removing the city manager's pandemic specific authority. And I believe we have our assistant city manager who will be taking the podium on this. So welcome.
You.
And I think there were a number of people interested in this. Am I correct? And I don't know who wants to start. Counselor Rivera, Counselor Lindell. Oh, you did not? Okay. Counselor Lindell did not pull this item, sorry, but I think others of you did. Councilwoman, Counselor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just curious as to, I know 200,000 was the pandemic amount, but why did we decide to stick with that amount versus trying to maybe go somewhere in between what we had at 60,000 versus where we were at?
Counselor Linda, sorry, Madam Chair, Counselor Rivera. I'm not sure of for us, I think that the county right now has a $250,000 limit. And I think that we felt that this worked during the pandemic, so we just continued with that. I'm not sure why that amount was originally chosen. I don't know if Finance Director Oster has an answer to that, but I don't know the original reason we chose it, but I think that we wanted to stay as close to our neighbors as possible, which is what the county manager currently has, $250,000 limit.
Are there any major advantages to staying at that amount, or what would be the difference if you set it 130 or 50?
I think that the 250, like I said, I think that it worked well for us. I think that we've looked at other communities nearby, and this is pretty standard. Some have higher, some have lower, and this is pretty much in the middle there. So I think that again, it allows for just more flexibility within to get community priorities moving forward.
So besides the county, who are the other organizations you looked at, and do you know what theirs were set at?
Yes, so we have the city of Albuquerque has a variety. They have $100,000 for professional or technical services. Bernalillo County has 200,000 for everything other than construction, 500,000 for construction, 300,000 for financial resolutions. And let's see, what other ones do we have in here? Okay. Again, Santa Fe County has 250. City of Las Cruces is 99. And the original COVID, we looked at other similar cities. So Olympia, Washington has a $150 million budget with a $300,000 city manager spending authority. Let's see, Portland, Oregon with a $5.5 billion budget has a $1 million city manager spending authority. Those are just a couple examples.
All right, so Santa Fe County and Las Cruces are the only ones with the city manager. I don't believe Albuquerque has a city manager, right?
They have a CAO, which is the equivalent.
To a city manager.
Mhm.
And then some of those other cities like Olympia, they're significantly bigger than we are, right?
I don't know the size, but I'm assuming that they're similar. That's why they were chosen in 2019. We were doing the research on this. I can definitely look into some other cities.
Did we look at sort of parsing it out the way some of those other communities do, and maybe only giving 200,000 for certain procurements that need to be made, and maybe less for others?
We did not look at that, but that is something that we can explore if that's an interest.
$200,000 to me is still a lot of money, and though it went well during the pandemic, and I'm sure this city manager would be diligent in what he signs or doesn't sign, but he's not going to be the city manager forever, and we're going to have more, and this will be a spending authority that carries throughout. So I think our constituents expect a little more oversight by their elected officials. So I'm having a little bit of difficulty with the overall amount, but I'm interested in what others have to say in here.
Councilwoman Villarreal?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had the same questions as my colleague. I think it was also just wanting to understand the mixtures that other places have and why we didn't look at that kind of combo scenario. And then, City of Las Cruces, knowing what I know about their kind of structure. And they're larger than us population wise, and the fact that their governing body is still overseeing 100,000 seems like a good mid-range, especially from where we started with 60,000. And I realize why we made the increase. And now, yeah, I think there should be kind of a middle ground. So I'm not sold on 200,000. I think I'd like to know more about if there's ways we could, like I said earlier, blending. So I don't really have any questions because my colleague has
Yeah.
the same questions I had.
Madam Chair, Councilor Villarreal, we'll do some more research into it and look at some of the other communities nearby. I'm happy to take on that effort and let you all know what the outcome of that is.
Okay. Yeah, I think I don't have any more questions right now. I was just wanting to understand reasoning, and actually I was a little confused by the examples in the memo. They didn't really solidify for me that this was the route to go, especially with the example about the multi-year contract. And it was talking about 100,000 for a 10-year contract, which we don't typically have 10-year contracts. And so I was trying to figure out the logic behind that. And that bullet point still doesn't make sense to me. So maybe if I look at it again, I'm not sure who wrote that first. Maybe you could explain that piece, the first bullet of the memo.
Councilor Villarreal and members of the Finance Committee, I can address that. We do have some 10-year contracts for general services. Under the procurement code, we are limited to 4 years for professional services, but for general services, we can go up to 10 years. And then I just
Can you give us examples of some contracts that fall under that?
Sure, Madam Chair and Councilor Villarreal, we recently amended the fiscal agent bank contract, or no, I'm sorry, it was the benefits contract with Cigna to extend that for 2 additional years. That's an example. The fiscal agent banking services is another example of a general services contract. But the one that comes to mind most recently is we executed an amendment with Cigna to extend that contract up to 10. So those two are both well over $100,000 though. I think one thing that I would like to emphasize here is that significant contracts and large dollar amounts would still come before the governing body. $200,000 spread out even over 4 years is $50,000 a year. There's several items on our agenda tonight that are below $100,000 and they're multi-year. So that means they're less than $25,000 a year if they're a 4-year contract. So the city, executes contracts of varying sizes, and this change would not change the fact that the large items would still come before the governing body for review and for approval. This would essentially continue with the status quo that we all got used to during the pandemic. For almost 3 years, the city operated with this $200,000 threshold under the pandemic authority. And, I think that that allowed the city and all of our departments to be responsive to constituent needs and to provide city services promptly. And, as a member of management, we would like to continue to do that. And so, allowing the city manager to sign these contracts up to $200,000 would allow us to move more quickly in responding to needs of the city that fall below that threshold. One other item that I just wanted to note is that this proposed resolution does not change the city manager's bar authority. That will remain at $60,000. This proposal wouldn't change that. And it also doesn't change our purchasing thresholds. So for example, in the procurement code and in our purchasing manual, there is a $60,000 threshold for small purchases. And so we would still adhere to that. So anything above $60,000 would still require a competitive solicitation, like an RFP or a invitation to bid. So just wanted to, while I've got the mic, just wanted to jump in and clarify that this is only the authority to sign the contract. It doesn't change the procurement thresholds or the policies around procurement, and it doesn't change the budgetary authority. So all of the contracts that would be executed and have been executed under this authority have already been approved by the governing body as part of the budget process. So, the concept has been approved through the budget process, and the contract is the mechanism for, doing what was approved as part of the budget.
And Chairwoman and members of the committee, the other thing I want to just make sure that you are all aware of is that we do want to consider that continue that transparency that we've currently been having. So the report would get sent to you. And we've also been looking at options to have transparency with the public. So that might mean putting these contracts on the website, on the city's website. So we want to make sure that we're transparent with these contracts and with the public.
Thank you. And you said the report will still be sent out? Are you saying what we receive from you with the update on, it's usually monthly?
Hmm.
So that would still stay in place?
Correct.
And then the quarterly budget? Would that change? Just not budget, but
Madam Chair.
we
and
get
Council-
contracts that were approved on that list too. Right.
The authority relating to bars doesn't change at all under this resolution. So the limit for the city manager's approval of bars would remain at $60,000. And we would continue to bring those to you quarterly as part of the resolution. We actually have that on the agenda tonight. So that process wouldn't change as a result of this proposed legislation.
There'll just be more on the list of not approved by governing body of lists of things that contracts that have been approved. Right?
Madam Chair and Councillor Villarreal, that list is related to budget adjustments, and that authority would stay at $60,000. This resolution would only change the contract signing authority to increase it to 200,000. The bar authority would stay at 60,000. So there would be no changes to the quarterly resolution because that threshold isn't proposed to change under this resolution.
So if I can just further clarify, the report that we have been getting from the city manager's office and that Layla has been doing is a list of all the contracts that the city manager signed with the $200,000 authority. And that would continue. We would continue to get that on a monthly basis. And in addition, they're looking to do like a sunshine portal and have those contracts posted so that the public could look at them too. And that would be a new addition to this. But so we would see everything that is being signed just like we have. And in addition, the public would be able to see everything that was being signed. And I think it is a good point that we do approve the budget line items and they're just executing that with the contracts. But if there is a budget adjustment request, like a bar, to move things around, it's the only thing that the city manager can do under that authority is 60,000 or lower. So anything above that has to come back through the process, and we have to know about it and approve it.
Got it. Thank you for that clarity. That was helpful. I think that's all. That's all I have for now. Thank you.
Councilwoman Cassidy.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. And you guys actually foresaw a lot of the questions that were coming. But yes, I did want to confirm that it really is, it's money that has already been allocated. Any changes in the budget over 60K, that still has to come to us. Do we know how many contracts, like what is the percentage of contracts I know it'll change from year to year, that fall below 200 and that go above?
I'm looking at our procurement officer to see if he knows.
I know it's an interesting
No,
stat to just have
doesn't know.
offhand. I was just curious if you.
Yeah,
guys
no,
looked
but
at it.
I'm, Madam Chair, Counselor Cassidy, I'm happy to look that up and see if we can.
Yeah, you might look, the person who first did this research was Jennifer Fabian when she was our policy analyst. And she did a memo that had some, and I can't, it's been so long. It had something about the number of contracts that were coming through committees. And that might be worth going back to. It's been a long time since I've looked at that.
Would love that information myself, so I'll definitely look into that.
Yeah, I might have that PowerPoint
Yeah,
somewhere.
we can look
so
for it
we can
later,
try to
but
find it.
yeah.
The other question, this actually might be in that PowerPoint as well. I think that the challenge here is it really is this balance between efficiency and transparency and, the governing body oversight. So I really do appreciate this conversation around there being a sunshine portal. I think that that's really important because right now people see whatever is on the agendas, but these obviously are not seen in that detail. But I would like to know a little bit more about how this does impact the process of city functioning, because if I understand correctly, the kind of motive behind this is really to be able to allow the city to act more efficiently in executing contracts and getting the work done. Do you have any information about, what is the time differential? What is the staff time differential between contracts that go to governing body and contracts that are signed by the city manager? No, complex question. Sorry. I'm just asking all of the complicated questions tonight.
Sure. Madam Chair and Councillor Cassidy, I can give you kind of an anecdotal answer to that, and then we can try to get a little more quantitative with it if you'd like. But I would say, on average, the process of going through committees and having governing body approves contracts takes about 3 weeks. It depends on where we're at in the committee cycle. So I think really, the desire is there among your city staff to address community needs as quickly as we can. And for some of these smaller needs that come up under the higher threshold of $200,000, we've been able to move more quickly than that. And I think that was, I wasn't here at that stage in the pandemic, but I think that was probably why the authority was raised in the first place, was to allow these needs met more quickly and to allow these, relatively small contracts to move forward more quickly. So just my, kind of estimate based on what I've seen over the last 10 months or so is I would say that contracts that are signed by the city manager move forward on average about 3 weeks quicker than those that don't require that authority. And of course, it varies from contract to contract, but sometimes the committee review process goes faster, and but that's my estimate.
Thank you. And then in terms of, I've, heard from a couple directors about this, about there's a staff time. And can you give me more information there about how much extra staff time does it take? I mean, when a contract goes to the city manager, do they have a memo? Is it a similar, we don't see those contracts, obviously, so similar preparation that he is given in terms of understanding what's going on?
Madam Chair, Counselor Cassett. So yes, we do receive a memo along with the contract when we sign those documents. So the city manager does require that there is some background information before he signs something. He's very diligent about it. For staff, I think that a really good example of that would be for the time frame. I think tonight's contract with the city of the schools. I think that's a really great example that we can look at of a contract that is going to take a while because it's got to go through, it has to go through all of those committees. And so we have to wait until it's done with the committee before it can get, it can be executed. I think that's a really great example of one of them that's a little bit time sensitive. And we do have to wait for that process. But yes, we do receive a memo when we sign those documents. Did that answer the question? Is there further?
Yeah, no, that did help. Thank you. Sounds like I misunderstood about the prep. It sounds like the prep work is the same.
It's
The difference is really the time it takes to go through governing body.
Madam Chair and Councillor Cassett, I just wanted to add in that the process of writing a caption and getting the documentation uploaded to PrimeGov, I mean, it's not huge, but multiplied by, I think we did 7,000 procurements or, 7,000. That includes purchase orders and other types of purchases, but there is some administrative work involved with bringing forth an item to committee and of course attending the committees and governing body. So I think another thing that might be worth looking at is how many of these smaller contracts end up passing on consent. So maybe as we were doing that research, we could take a look at that as well. And I think that might have an effect on your time as well, which we know is very precious here in the governing body.
I do think that is a really interesting statistic to look at.
And I think also with the time frame comment from Director Oster is that we also have to make sure the timing's right, because for all the committees, there's we have to make sure that they're posted in order to meet the Open Meetings Act requirement. So if you have, you're lots of time up on the gun to make sure that that is posted before those deadlines. And so that sometimes is just an added complexity to the layer to this process.
Thank you. Hold on, it's in my brain. I had one more. It was on the tip of my tongue. Oh, in terms of the speed on which something might be able to get up onto the Sunshine Portal, right now, we get them about a month later. So if, something signed on June 2nd, we may not see it till June 30th. Do you have any more thoughts on that process of how quickly as after a contract is signed that it would be available to the public?
Councillor Cassett, I think this idea came from you all, and I think that's a fantastic idea. So I think that we can, make that time frame. I wouldn't say immediate, but I would say, give us a week or two at least to be able to get them up. But I think that this is a directive from you all to make sure that we are being transparent with the public. So I'm happy to take feedback on that if you would like it within a certain amount of time.
Okay. Thank you. I don't think I have any further questions.
Okay, I did find the PowerPoint from 100 bazillion years ago. Let's see, March 2020. And I will forward this to everyone, and it does have some interesting things in it. I do think the issue is, how do we provide oversight, and how do we make sure? Yeah, I mean, we are, again, this goes back, to the legislative side, to being the appropriators, to making sure that money is being spent the way we have agreed to do it. And I think we are in this transition point. Some of it is having a full-time mayor, some of it is having, the updated software. There are things I want to see this committee doing that we currently are not doing. And some of that is because we don't have audits, but we're getting them. And one of the things that I look forward to is having financial statements on a regular basis. And those financial statements are going to show us the line items by department where we're going to be able to track how money is being spent in accordance with how we budgeted it. And I think it's going to give us the ability to look at where things are out of line. And I don't know did you have that experience when you were at DFA in front of the legislature? Is that something you can elaborate on, Director Oster?
Madam Chair and councilors, so on the contracting side, at the agency level, I don't recall a whole lot of oversight from DFA. I think they do, make sure that you have the budget in order to fund the contract. At the purchase order stage. So there is that control in place. The legislative body doesn't approve individual contracts. They appropriate at the P code level, at the program code level, which would be probably pretty equivalent to our department level, I would say. It's by functional area. And, there's not as much flexibility. We have more flexibility here at the city to make budget adjustments with your approval through the BAR process. But really, in my experience working at the state, the authority for spending is really established through the budget process by appropriations to different program codes. And then, the departments are responsible for carrying out their mission, which a lot of times is laid out in statute, their, core responsibilities. So, Madam Chair and councilors, I hope that helps, but I really don't recall anything that would be akin to the legislature approving specific contracts.
Okay, good. Well, I think the overall point is I think there are other ways that we can, there are other things I think this committee could be doing, spending its time on that would do more to provide oversight on how money is being spent, and including developing a budget process where we are more included as the budget is being pulled together, rather than spending as much time as we do on small contracts that we've already approved money for and staff is just carrying out. And to that point, this research that was done in 2019 said that, so looking at just contracts in 2019, 57% of the contracts on the governing body agenda are under 250,000. So I think that's a significant number. Approximately half of contract amendments in 2019 were less than 25% of the total contract amount. For example, there were 4 contract amendments sent through the committee process last year that were for changes of less than 1% of the contract amount. So again, I think that sort of suggests that we're spending our time on minuscule things rather than bigger things. And I think it also keeps us from doing more presentations where we dive into policy issues, where we develop policy, where we do that other role. And so I think there are things this committee could be doing that would give us maybe more bang for our buck, given the topic that we're talking about. Just trying to look through this presentation, this PowerPoint that was given in 2019, and look for other things that were there. But maybe I'll stop doing that. And I do think that some of the important points are that the multi-year contracts very quickly get us up to the $200,000. I think we have been seeing the list of what's been signed by the city manager. I don't think there has been anything that we would argue with. And in fact, I remember telling the city manager during the pandemic, you know, if you see something that's you think is going to cause alarm, you probably ought to bring it to us, even if you have the authority to sign it, because this is something we're piloting, right? This is something we're trying to see if it works. So, you know, if you know it's going to be controversial, maybe you should bring it to us rather than just sign off on it as we try this out. I think, you know, I don't know, I don't think that ever happened, but we did, we have seen the list of what was signed, and, you know, I don't think that any of us have ever said that it was out of line. And so we've, in a sense, been piloting this level of authority for the last 3 years, and it's done well. And actually, I do remember there's another point here about, well, there's 2 points in here actually that I want to read. One has to do with the amount of time that it took to get a contract. So according to this research, it took 4 months to process a contract for which there was funding and great constituent and counselor demand, not to mention all the project managers and other time and energy this process consumed, reducing our overall capacity to deliver projects and services. And I think we really need to think of it in that way too, is that oftentimes the staff is trying to do exactly what we want them to do, and our process is slowing us down. And I don't think we're, you know, I think we can still keep tabs on things and make sure that they're being done correctly. I would also notice, and then this PowerPoint said, a 2019 internal audit conducted by Colorado Independent Consultants Network, LLC, recommended the following, and we should look into this further because I'm not sure if this was an internal audit of us or who the internal audit was, but they said that the city manager should have 100,000 to 250,000 level contract signing authority, and that the city council should look at anything over 250,000. And then it went down and divided, it went down deeper and said department directors ought to have 10,000 to 100,000. And I don't even know, we don't even do that. Everything flows up to the city manager. So that tells me that this internal audit must have been done more generically of how best practices for city government. So we ought to look at whatever that study is that's quoted here.
Madam Chair, that was most likely an internal audit of the city. So that was probably a contract internal audit.
Okay, well, let's find out some more information about that, because it does suggest that even the department directors should have signing authority of 10,000 to 100,000, and that the city manager's authority should be somewhere between 100,000 and 250,000, and that the council should be looking at things that are 250,000 and above. And I do think, you know, if we're looking at that level, then we're getting the big stuff, and we are, you know, it's also allowing us to have the time to be doing the other work that we should be doing that I don't think we spend enough time on. So I think this is worth thinking about, and let's see if we can get some more information. Did I want to make any other point? Councilor Lindell, you had your hand raised.
Well, you covered the point I was wanting to make, which was, okay, that we get those reports. Ms. Oster, have you ever had anybody from the council call and ask for more information on the contracts that Mr. Blair signed?
Madam Chair and Councillor Lindell, I haven't personally received a request like that. I don't know if the city manager's office.
Councilor Lindell, I had one question or maybe one or two questions the first month, but I haven't had any questions since then.
That was my point, Councilor Chair. Thank you.
Okay, great. I'm going to send this PowerPoint to the two of you, and if you wouldn't mind sending it to the committee, because I think I'm not supposed to do that. Otherwise, we have a quorum going on the email. Counselor Rivera.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So with regards to really any amount of money, I think that's why we were elected to manage public funds. Now clearly, I don't think anything under a certain amount probably should be scrutinized by us, but I do think there's a threshold probably less than 200,000 that should be looking at and that we're expected to look at. I appreciate the transparency in the portal, but I think like we saw this evening in your example of Director Sanchez's request was a good one for timeliness, but a bad one for when we have questions. Because we did have questions about that and information coming back to this committee, or at least to two of my colleagues regarding questions that they had. That wouldn't have been done in the transparency portal. They just present it and then you just basically let it go, or you see it a month later. And a contract like with the public schools wouldn't have been, we wouldn't have gotten that information in a timely manner in order to really look at it and do anything about it if we didn't disagree, or if we disagreed with it. The other one was at our governing body meeting. Director Salazar felt like she had something that had been approved by the city manager because he had the limit to do it, but it didn't make the timeliness, so it had to come to the governing body. And again, there were questions on that agreement as well by Councilwoman Villarreal. So there are clearly contracts under 200,000 that still have a level of questioning and scrutiny that I think is warranted. I did have a question. So and I don't know if this is for Director Oster, but if you had a $600,000 contract, this is just an example, for 4 years, so it's only 150 per year because it has to be appropriated every year. Would that come to the governing body, or would that just be approved by the city manager?
Madam Chair, if it was a multi-year contract and if it exceeded the $200,000 amount, it would still come to the governing body.
It would be the overall amount.
Correct.
4-year period.
Yes.
Right. So then the overall contract would come to us, and then the city manager would approve the amount every year.
Madam Chair and Councilor Rivera, for any contract where the total amount throughout the term exceeds $200,000, the way that it was operating during the pandemic was those always came to the governing body. And if we did an amendment, even if we did an amendment for, maybe $5,000, it still came to the governing body because the total amount of the agreement was over that threshold of 200,000. So one of the things that we started doing during the pandemic was we started doing more multi-year contracts, which makes a lot of sense operationally, cuts down on the amount of time we spend on procurement. And we have the ability to do that under the procurement code and under our purchasing manual. So the amount that drives this is the total amount of the contract. And if there were an amendment to a contract where the amendment itself was less than 200,000, but the total contract amount was over 200,000, that would still come to you. And so that's why sometimes, during the period where the emergency authority was in effect, you would see sometimes amendments for amounts that were much less than 200,000.
And that would continue.
Madam Chair and Councilor Rivera, that's my understanding of the proposal. The intent was to continue, what was kind of like a pilot project that started during the pandemic, to utilize 200,000 rather than 60,000 as the threshold.
So I wonder if that information from Fabian was, 49% of contracts approved by the governing body, less than 150,000, those could have been amendments to larger contracts.
Madam Chair and Councilor Rivera, I'm not familiar with, I have it in front of me now, but I haven't really dived into this report that Ms. Fabian did. But I can say that at this point, or even, during the pandemic period where the emergency authority was in effect, contracts where the total amount, including amendments, was less than $200,000 were being signed by the city manager, but amounts over $200,000, even if it was a multi-year term, they were coming to you. They were still coming to the governing body for approval.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think the contract you were referencing, Counselor Rivera, was the security contract, which was an amendment, and it was over the 250,000. So we would get it.
And it was in the. Do you remember who the company was? It was an I.
Momentum.
Okay. I just saw one other thing that I thought was interesting to share. Sure, go ahead, Counselor
So that
Rivera.
brought something else to mind, the Momentous contract. I think it was, I don't remember the exact amount. Do you remember it?
Counselor 99,000.
99,000, but it was a multi-year contract. So did that contract exceed the $200,000 mark?
Madam Chair and councilors, that contract came before governing body because we extended the term after the original term had expired. So it came before governing body for a different reason that was not related to the amount.
Okay, thank you for that question, because it allowed me to find this little whereas. The city contracts with a value of between 60,000 and 250,000 are predominantly professional services agreements, contracts for services that are essential to the city. So I think that's an interesting piece too. Again, this is about providing the services to the community and wanting to get those out so that they are providing those services in a timely way. So anyway, all right, I will stop there. Councillor Cassett, you have another.
Yeah, it does sound like there's a lot of information that we are wanting to have. The other one that I'm really curious about is how often does a contract get rejected? So even if we pull it and we have conversations, does it usually pass in the end? And then also in terms of, gets a little complicated. Is there a way for governing body members to, is there something we can log into that we see the contracts that are moving through the process? Do we have any ability? Because at that point, if we see something really troublesome, to your point, there's only been a couple questions that you've seen that we could yank up. That, if we're looking and we can say, hey, I don't like this one, yank it up, or there's something going on, or we can even reach out to staff just to ask questions about it so we do get those questions answered. I'm curious if that would be something that would be a possibility for us.
Councilwoman and I'm sorry.
Cassett, that's cool.
Cassett, no.
No one can remember.
We're all having trouble with names.
Just call us all Council Lindell. It'll be fine.
I did not forget your name, I promise. We have discussed that. I've discussed that with the IT director. We don't necessarily know if we have a current system where you could just log in and pull contracts. We could most certainly, if there was something that you had concerns about, we could definitely, you could reach out to, it would be me. I would be the point of contact for the time being. And I would be able to get that information for you. It is, but I have discussed Director Gonzalez, what that would look like. It would be a pretty complex system that would be required. So I don't know how we would do it easily.
Okay. And then I guess my other question is, what happens if a contract is signed and somebody takes issue with it? Is there a process by which we vote and cancel it? Or not really, because it's already been signed and executed by the contractor? I would assume that the latter would be the correct or the answer to that, but just wanted to check.
Madam Chair and councilors, all of our contracts include a termination clause as standard language, which, you know, we could execute. Most of them require some amount of notice, but you know, if it came to the attention of the governing body that there was a contract executed under this signature authority, you know, there would be the option of utilizing the termination clause.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Just pondering things. Thanks so much.
Councilwoman Villarreal.
Just to get back to that other contract, Momentous, that was a multi-year, correct? And it was 99 for 1 year? I'm
Council
looking at it now and I can't
Yeah.
find it.
No, it was a single year contract.
Single year.
Let
Okay.
me- Yeah.
All right, what's the pleasure of the committee?
Move to approve.
I'll second. Is there more discussion? Counselor Cassett?
There's a lot, I think that there are a lot of questions that we weren't able to answer at this time, and I think that it might be wise for us to hold this. I would actually really like to see some of the information that Jennifer had brought up. You know, I am curious about all the different possibilities about what this really looks like. I think in general, I am leaning towards being in favor of this because I think that the efficiency piece of the city is important. Again, this is money we've already allocated. As Councilor Mara-Worth stated, there are other things that I think could be more productive in terms of us really being able to have the oversight on how those dollars are being spent that I really hope that we can start moving forward with. I believe hopefully at some point this fiscal year as we get those audits underway. But I do think that there's a lot of information that would be really helpful for us to have and for the general understanding of what this looks like and what this really means. So that is where I am leaning at this time, is to maybe hold it to the next finance meeting.
Counselor Cassett, could I make a suggestion? I've taken plenty of the notes and the questions. I'm happy to go through the presentation that Chairwoman sent me, so I can look at that and see how we can update it to more modern, more current numbers, and then bring those answers to you all in a presentation.
Here's my concern, is that we don't meet again until July 17th. To hold this bill will throw it off its track in a major way. And I think we can get the information that counselors are going to need out in the other committees, and because this is going to 2 more committees, this is just the first, isn't it? It's going to Public Works, isn't it?
Madam Chair, it's currently scheduled for Public Works on July 10th. So that does give us, that's the next stop for this bill. It's not currently scheduled for quality of life.
Oh, at all?
Madam
I
Chair.
thought it was
I'm
going to
looking at
quality of life tomorrow night.
the-
Yeah, I knew we added one. I guess we thought we added Public Works. What, let's see, let's go back. What is the,
Madam Chair, on Prime Gov, it shows that Public Works and Utilities is the next committee assignment on July 10th.
yeah, and I thought that the committee addition was Public Works, not quality of life.
But it was already going to Public Works and we added so that it would be all 3.
Okay, well, we need to check on what the ad was and make sure that that actually got done, because it is not going to quality of life, which I thought it was. And it's not going to governing body until the 12th. If we hold this over, we do not meet again until the 17th. Again, I do think there's at least one more committee hearing, and there's enough time to update any numbers that need to be updated and to get that information out to the counselors so that everybody has what they need. Counselor Cassett.
Yeah, I did not realize that our next finance meeting was not for about a month. So, But I do want to make sure, because I was under the understanding it was going to go to all three committees. So,
Yeah, so we need to check.
yeah,
on
we
that.
need to check that. But given that you're right, it does not, that we don't meet again till the 17th.
And-
I am happy to move it forward with people, with knowing what the questions are, as we'll have some more opportunities to.
I also just, we don't meet again until the 17th because of the 4th of July holiday. So that's what's messing us up a little bit. Okay, other questions from the committee? We ready to vote? Director Oster, do you want to take the roll?
Certainly, Madam Chair. There's a motion made by Counselor Lindell, seconded by Counselor Merrill Worth to approve this item. Counselor Cassett,
Yes, and I would like to probably unnecessarily clarify my vote.
thank you. Counselor Lindell,
Yes.
Counselor Rivera,
And abstain until we get the additional information.
Counselor Virial,
I'd like to abstain as well.
Counselor Merrill Worth.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Counselor Cassett, to explain your vote.
Probably unnecessarily because I just stated it. I do believe that I'm going to be in favor of this, but there are a lot of questions I have before I would be really ready for a final vote. But in general, I do think it's worked well the last few years. And so I think that there's some tweaks and some conversations we can have. That was why I'm willing to move it forward. Thank you.
Okay, with that, we are done with our consent agenda. We have a very important thing to do. Otherwise, nobody's getting reelected. Consideration of resolution number 2021. This is introduction, sponsored by me. A resolution required pursuant to SFCC 9-1.6A, notifying the county clerk of the County of Santa Fe that the regular local election to be held on November 7th, 2023 shall include elections for one city councilor from each council district and one municipal judge for the city of Santa Fe. Christine Bustos Mahelsek, our city clerk, is the staff person on this. Again, we are just introducing this tonight. It will come to finance. No, it won't. It's going to quality of life on June 21st and governing body on 6/28. I think it is on a bit of a fast track because we need to have it in place for, this is something that's necessary in order to do the election this November. So we will be talking about that. You will be talking about that at Quality of Life, and then we'll be talking about it at governing body. And tonight we are merely introducing it. Okay, that's done. We do not have an executive session. Matters from staff,
None at this time, Madam Chair.
matters from the committee. Councilwoman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to follow up, I didn't get the email from Director Salazar until late, so I didn't get to read it fully. And there's two things I wanted to get clarity on. When is our class and comp study going to be completed? And then the second question is, and I don't think we can answer it. Can we answer it now?
Yeah, this is
Maybe
not,
via email.
this is not on the agenda. Yeah.
So if you can let us know about the class and comp because it relates to this item that was supposed to be heard. And the other one was why, the concern about fire had to get Juneteenth on the calendars in order for it to be honored. And I'm just curious why AFSCME didn't have to do that in order to have Juneteenth off. So if you could email me, one could tell me that.
Or maybe somebody can reach out to you.
Yeah. that'd be
So
great.
you have questions to be answered. Other matters from the committee? Matters from the chair. Our next meeting is Monday, July 17th. Thank you, everyone. Bye. 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 We're adjourned.